Hello and welcome to our first on-demand webinar event. My name is Mason Sugars and I'm the Product Marketing Coordinator for Avlight Systems. Today we're going to take a look at how to specify your ideal heliport solution. First of all, I'd like to introduce our speakers today. Presenting is going to be Vicky Clark, Sales Engineer for Australia and the Pacific. Vicky has 10 years of experience in aviation lighting sales and has been at the forefront of helping so many heliports be commissioned across Australia. And showing us behind the scenes today and how solutions are made is Daniel Freeland, the Solutions Team Head. Daniel runs the solutions process, including customized development requests. So what are we going to cover today? Well, first of all, we're going to understand your heliport requirements to start with. So first of all, when and where will you be using heliport? That's really important for us to know and really important when we're specifying heliports. We're also going to have a look at some of the products that get involved, solar versus inset. What's the best for your type of application? And then the other thing we're going to look at, what's best, is how you plan on controlling a heliport. Going to see if your system requires a PALC, whether it requires remote control, or whether or not it just requires a basic switch set. Lastly, Vicky's going to take a look into a case study and one of our first installs for one of our product sets at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. It's a great case study, and we look forward to Vicky sharing it shortly. Then we're going to move into the solutions, what they are and our capabilities. And Dan's going to have a look and take you through what solutions are, what we can provide. We also already have pre-canned standard systems ready to go. And lastly, he's going to disseminate what a customized solution is. And we're going to spend a bit of time talking about how they're created. A little bit about us. We're a world-class aviation systems lighting manufacturer. We specialize in aircraft, heliport, obstruction and military products and solutions. And Avlight provide turnkey systems for defence, government, civil and humanitarian aid applications. Our systems have been used in some of the most remote, some of the toughest environments around the world. At Avlight Systems, we have a really strong commitment to research and development. We really pride ourselves on product innovation, and we have agile manufacturing techniques that make us the industry leader in global aviation lighting. We also have some key capabilities I wish to share before I pass on to Vicky. We have the most complete line of third-party certified ICAO, FAA, and regional LED lighting approvals. We have purpose-built manufacturing facilities in Australia and America. Complete suite of in-house manufacturing capabilities with a multidiscipline engineering department, as you'll see when Dan talks about our solutions department. And of course, we're ISO 9001 2015 registered. So now I'd like to pass on to Vicky Clark, who will take you through your heliport requirements. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you, Mason. Some of the things that we need to know when helping you with your helipad lighting are listed here. The primary things we need to know are where the helipad is located, both the country and the state, and whether it's ground or elevated, as the regulations do vary across the world depending on the type of helipad you have. We also need to know what sort of power sources you have or that you want to use, whether that be mains power or solar. If it's mains powered, what your voltage and frequency are. Finally, we need to know if you have consulted with your local aviation authority to determine a specific layout or configuration. We're not going to contradict guidance from the local authority, but we can offer you guidance to assist with your local authority. We have a number of scalable configurations that are suitable for many applications. But if your requirement is particularly complex or it requires items that we do not typically provide, we may still be able to assist you, but your project will be handled by our solutions team, who we'll be hearing from shortly. Knowing how you will use your helipad, that's what we call the design intent, is a vital part of the discussion. There's a huge difference in the requirements for a temporary installation for a medical evacuation from a cricket pitch compared to a permanent, frequently used helipad on an oil rig, for example. We also need to know who the operator of the lighting will be. Is it the pilot using a pilot activated lighting control? Is it a helideck operator as a standard part of their everyday role where they're trained in the operation of a helipad? Or is it an emergency department nurse or doctor who will have other things on their mind when the helicopter is arriving? Any one of these configurations has its own benefits or its own detriments, and we want to be able to help you get the right solution for your needs. Once we know how and where your helipad is used and how it's operated, we can look at the most appropriate lighting options for you. We have three primary types of helipad lighting: inset, elevated, and solar. Surface level helipads have the most flexibility of choice with the lighting, as all options are appropriate depending on the use of the helipad. Elevated helipads and helidecks, or any location where the lights need to be transited over, whether by people, vehicles, or aircraft, are best suited to inset lights, although elevated lights are acceptable around the edges. For a temporary installation, we can look at simple battery-powered lights for very short-term installations, or solar for a medium-term installation. With control, we have a variety of options, from a simple single push-button operation, through pilot activation, up to customizable timeouts or incorporation into a building management system. We can integrate a gateway as well, so that the helipad as a whole can be remotely monitored and controlled through our Star2M asset monitoring and control platform. We can also combine a number of different options into a single system. For example, pilot activated lighting with Star2M monitoring and control, and a control panel locally with simple on-off switch as backup. As an example of the type of system we can offer, I'd like to talk now about the installation we completed in 2014 at the Royal Adelaide Hospital in South Australia. The Royal Adelaide has a very large helipad comprising of a landing area and also a waiting or holding area. Consideration for this helipad included the desire to be hardwired via AC power, which is something at that time Avlight hadn't done. We provided a total of 57 elevated edge lights and 25 floodlights, all powered and controlled from a central location. We designed the lights to have independent universal AC power supplies, meaning that the lights can be used globally with no further modifications. It also means that AC power can be distributed around the helipad, eliminating voltage drop issues and enabling installation and maintenance by any electrically qualified technician. There are no specific airfield lighting qualifications required. Following the successful completion of this particular installation, we rolled this design into our standard product range, and the light head used is the same light head across all our elevated AC, DC and solar helipad lights. I'll just give you a few moments to read this from Wade Evans, our product manager. As Wade says, Hardwired Lighting has become a major component of our Avlight business. The lights designed for the helipad at Adelaide and made in our factory in Victoria, Australia, are now used in different power configurations, saving lives at hospitals across the globe. I'd now like to hand over to Dan, who will talk more about customization and solutions for helipads.
Thanks a lot, Vicky. So solutions from Avlight are really a value-added turnkey system. And as you can see from the list here, these solutions can consist of anything from a single obstruction light or power supply unit all the way up to complex integrated systems with, say, PLC controllers, hardwired or AVMesh integrated aviation lights, pilot activated lighting controls, as well as other potential third-party products such as beacons, floodlights, HVAC control circuits, sirens, or even a remote terminal for inside an emergency department, as well as Modbus and building management system integrations, or any multitude of other devices, depending on the individual project or site requirements. The real value is the ability for all of these devices and discrete systems to be integrated, engineered and tested by our systems engineers prior to delivery on site, This really allows for a smooth and supported installation process and ultimately leads to greater outcomes for all project stakeholders at all levels. In addition to our highly customized solutions, the engagement the solutions team have with industry allows us to really develop standardized products that are informed by real-world customer experience, such as our T1 heli control system or our pilot activated lighting systems. These are heavily informed by experience in the field and really allows us to not only respond quickly to a broad range of conditions with a standardized product, but this product, the T1, forms the architectural basis of quite a lot of our more customized and complex solutions, which allows us for really a greater level of agility in responding to customer requirements. The largest part of the solutions process undoubtedly is the requirements. These are unfortunately not always known by the client or the engineers or site installations integrators, but our engineers spend a lot of time investigating each project and ultimately fully resolving the design to its simplest and most effective form. All of our solutions are fully engineered and pass a rigorous multi-stakeholder internal and sometimes external approvals process, as well as system testing prior to dispatch. And as with all Avlight products are backed by our technical support and documentation. Thanks a lot, Mason.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So just as a quick aside, Vicky, we obviously get an inquiry from a customer on a specific customized solution. So how does that work from your end right through the way to Daniel?
Yeah, good question, Mason. So the way we'd handle it here is if you phone up and make an inquiry for a helipad, the first thing I would do is give you a call or have a chat with you and find out where it's going to be, how big your helipad's going to be, what stage of the design process you've already reached. Basically what I want to find out is I want to see the big picture. I want to know what you're trying to design, for what purpose, in what way. And normally we'd do that over a phone call or possibly set up a teleconference or via email, whichever's most comfortable for you. And I get the bigger picture of what you're trying to achieve. Once I've got a good idea of what you're trying to achieve and I've got some ideas in my mind about how we might achieve that, I will then liaise with Dan, and Dan will do the more technical aspects of the design. So Dan, if you'd like to go on.
Yeah, sure. So I mean that's really where we take over. So our solutions engineers will interrogate and pull together all the information that Vicky or the sales team have garnished from the client or from the engineer or from the stakeholders, and really boil that down into a list of simple requirements that the system must complete. A lot of time there is some toing and froing as far as extra questions and extra information that are required back to possibly the end client or to an intermediate engineer or consultation department. But at the end of that process, we have a full picture of what the system needs to complete for the client and for the stakeholders involved, and that's I guess the starting point for the solutions team to begin to design a system around those requirements and really sort of tick these boxes.
That's really great, Dan. And I guess that the thing then is, so for the customer, they've got their pre-design and what that looks like. What happens next in that process?
Right. So our design unusually sort of comes back with the quote. So when we quote a system like this, we will have a full understanding of what it is and what it does, which is probably a little unheard of. But what it means is that there's very little in the way of ambiguity once the client gets a quotation. If the quotation's approved and the client is happy with the system as it's been designed, we will then push through to production, which for us entails quite a large documentation process to make sure that system architecture and the many devices that may be included in that are documented all the way down for the guys at production, or the guys and girls at production to execute this solution with effect.
And just to add to that, it's one of the questions I always get asked is, how long does it take? And this is something really, really important to start to think about in advance when you start planning your project. Is the answer to how long does it take is how long is a piece of string. If you're looking for a simple, standard, sort of pre-packaged design that we've already built a number of times before, we can potentially turn that around for you in as little as 8 to 10 weeks. However, if it's a large or complex design, or it's using specific products for a specific market, that can take a lot of time. It can take 4, 6, 8 weeks to even get this quote stage finalized, because we want to make absolutely sure that by the time we provide you with the quote, things aren't going to change. Absolutely, Vic. That's well said. We really importantly, part of the process is to make sure that that our system is not a PC sum. It is fully engineered by the time it gets to the stakeholders for decision. That's a really important part of the process.
Thank you, Dan and Vicky, and thank you everybody for joining us for this first on-demand webinar as we take a look into Heliport solutions. We've got more on-demand webinars coming, so stay tuned to your social and EDM channels to find out more about what's coming in 2021. In the description below, we've got a link to our 60-second survey, and we invite you to take that. Give us some feedback on what you liked, what you didn't, and if you've got any future topics you'd like us to cover. And please like the video and subscribe to our channel to stay in tune for the latest on-demand webinars. We've got great video content besides webinars, so stay tuned, and we look forward to sharing that throughout the year. Thank you very much for joining this Hardwired Systems webinar.